everyone, I'm Claire Liu, and I'm the CEO of Know Your Company, and I'm here in Chicago with honestly one of my favorite people in this city. We have Steve Larosiliere, whose name I hopefully pronounced right, even though we are friends.
Yeah,
it's
Larosiliere,
it's a hard one. But Steve is the founder and president of STOKED, this incredible organization that helps teens stay out of trouble through getting them engaged in action sports. And Steve, most recently, he's a little famous. He was on the Today Show. Whatever, Steve. No,
it's
we are
15 minutes. Yeah.
No, we are. I'm honored to have him here because Steve, prior to running his own nonprofit, extremely successful national nonprofit, was in the ad agency world and led your own company there. So in terms of leadership, just really excited to be able to talk with you today.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Absolutely. I'm a fan of you. So
thanks, man.
Just happy to be here.
I'll take that.
Cool.
So Steve, as you know, I've been asking this one question to leaders I respect.
Great.
You ready for it?
I'm ready.
Okay. So the question is, what's something you wish you would have learned earlier as a leader?
Dang. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Empathy.
Okay.
I feel like early in my career, I didn't have good leadership role models. And I thought leaders just kind of barked orders and just, were like, if they were the leader and they had the vision, everybody needed to fall in line.
Yes.
And that is completely wrong. And
yeah.
I've developed empathy throughout the years because I realized that by putting yourself in other people's shoes and knowing where they come from and understanding who they are, their motivations, their drive, their strengths, their weaknesses, their hopes, their fears. Like if you get that, then you can work with people.
Absolutely.
Then you can kind of like meet people where they are.
Right.
And so that is the number one thing. Gary Vee talks about empathy a lot.
Sure.
I have another friend named Daniel Epstein. He runs Unreasonable Institute. He has this thing called Empathy Builds Empires. Like Soul Pancake, the video, they talk about empathy. And I knew it intuitively because especially when you're sitting down with an employee or sitting down somebody that's on your team, and it's like you have an agenda and you know what the tasks are, you know what your goals are. You're sitting down for a meeting to just check in, and you see from their body language that like things aren't right, or you notice that they're calling sick or late, or some unexpected thing happened.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I've been that employee, by the way.
Yeah, and you can't
you can't
ignore that. You have to acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm.
You can just put yourself in that person's shoes even for a couple minutes, acknowledge where they're coming from, and say if there's anything that I could do to support. And I think every leader needs to do that. I feel like, if you don't have the time, then delegate that to somebody who has that in their nature. So that's...
No, there's a lot I want to unpack here, because what you're talking about is a awareness of more than what sort of meets the eye.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what empathy involves. The other thing you're talking about is that it sounds like, in your experience, it doesn't come naturally to everyone.
No.
Right?
No,
You're saying if it's not within your nature, delegate. Or talk to me about this. It doesn't sound like, initially in your career, you said, hey, this isn't
for
something
sure.
I did.
Yeah.
So how do you develop this? Actually, how do you get good at being empathetic? Is that a thing?
No, it took a lot of work, right? I after my first company closed and then I was going through the transition. So I had a marketing agency before, then I ran that for 4 years, and then I went to the nonprofit field because I just wanted to do something different. When I decided to start my organization, I realized that in order to be in a position of service, in a position where you can serve people at a greater level, you have to do a lot of inner work yourself, right? And so I'm sure you know this, you talk about this all the time.
Sure.
It's just leaders need to know themselves, work out their issues, if not get help for it. And a lot of times people, they keep ascending in their career.
Yes.
And they've noticed that, like, okay, maybe they got a senior level position in one company, but then that ends, and then they fail up, right? Because of the title that they had before,
right.
the thing that they had before. But the same issue from one job to the next company is still there.
Sure.
It's because they haven't worked it out. So they have to work it out.
Right.
And so honestly, how you have to work it out, and I joke, I said this to somebody, I was like, oh yeah, you should, like, run butt naked and run through the, run through the desert or something, or like go to Sweat Lodge, or
all
just
right.
like
everyone taking notes, right? Yeah, watching this. Go run butt naked through the desert. No, I get what you mean.
You know what I mean? It's just like you just have to like learn the things. Like I have a mentor, right? And I started to I check in. I realize when I check in with him, it's when things are just like a little tough, right? And he calls me out on my stuff, and he talks about how everything stems from something, and if you don't know what your issue stems from, then you can never fully resolve it, right? And so it's like psychology, but it's really it's just business, right? It's business.
It's business.
So that if you have an employee that's rubbing you the wrong way, if you have a client that's doing this, and it's really because A, you didn't pay attention to the cues. 2, you didn't set boundaries. 3, you weren't empathetic. 4, like you just didn't set it up, and you're bringing past stuff to this new relationship. And you're never gonna really be able to grow. So, and those are all things that, like, I know for me, he talks about like the next level of leadership. So like every time that I reach a milestone in my business and my career, like he's like, great, look at where you were 3 years ago, right? So I realized in myself, like there's certain periods, like seasons in which, like I feel overwhelmed, or I feel too busy, or I feel stressed out, or I feel depleted, right? And he's like, okay, look at 3 years ago, you felt the same thing, but you didn't have the accomplishments and the milestones that you reached now. What's happening? Yeah. And I'm like, whoa. Yeah. And it's deep, right? Just because you have this, we all have leaders have this sort of a neat thing that we need to fill. Yeah. Right?
We're chasing something. Yeah.
And and until you're at peace at that, you're always going to be chasing something, whether it's on your phone, or whether it is obsessively checking email, or obsessively checking LinkedIn for deals, or like whatever. You're always going to be chasing something, and so that's where kind of empathy comes in. It's like, and then you really, in order to like get around that, like I'm doing my best at this moment to surround myself with the types of people that are like leveling up in their lives, in their career, and are empathetic, right? And because it can't just be about numbers. Right. Because you hit a goal milestone, sure. Right. It's not going to help you. Right. I mean, you're still going to be in the same spot. Right. Or even if you reach it, you're not going to be happy with it. You're like, what? That's it.
Absolutely. I think this like lack of self-awareness that you're talking about around what are my own issues, and I think about how that actually trickles down into a team.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
Like
100%.
if you feel this restlessness and this need to keep chasing, but you're not really sure why, if you have unresolved issues from past employees or past companies or clients, I think about how that actually bleeds into your interactions with the team. You demand more of your team. You're more unreasonable with your team. I mean, there's a fascinating, I don't know if you saw this, Harvard Business Review piece that came out very recently that talked about how managers and a lot of business owners demand, 70-hour work weeks, right, from their employees, and their employees do that, right, and their employees do it, and actually want to put in more. And you know what the study found is that it's all based around insecurity. Yeah. People feeling like they're not good enough, and that we actually, Americans in particular, because around the world this is not a thing. Yeah, no. Like I was just in New Zealand, and like this anxiety around needing to work more and work harder and grind it out and hustle. Is like it's like an American thing. It actually it might be a bit of an Asian thing, being Korean myself, but like we can talk about that later. But it was this fascinating study around how in the insecurity of leaders and the insecurity of our employees, we just say, "Oh, do more.
Yeah.
Keep pushing for those numbers. Keep reaching."
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is if you think about it's like if there's this culture around, I think Basecamp is not like this, right? But like there's this culture around if you're seen, then there's opportunities that happen, right? Like if you show up, people will always remember you. And I mean, I like, and that's an interesting place.
It is.
It's an interesting sort of paradigm, just in terms of business. But I love what you're saying about like just putting in, the notion of putting in more hours and grinding it out and where that comes from. So I just remember, a couple of years ago in my organization, like before I hired my managing director who just handles a lot of the day-to-day, like my team was working really, 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 really hard. Like, and nonprofit salaries aren't like for-profit salaries. So like we were working, and I realized it was me. I was sending emails at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was sending emails at 11 o'clock at night. People felt like they would, I remember one employee told me like, "Oh man, I would like do 0 inbox, and then I'd get like 5 emails from you at like 6 in the morning and I'd feel defeated." And I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
So like,
you're doing that.
I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Right? And like, barking orders and like pivoting on a dime and like, you know what I mean? Like,
I do. I've been guilty of the same thing.
Like, you come up with an idea, it's like, great, that's what we're doing as a team. And people are like, well, I just spent the past couple of weeks. I just spent the past couple of weeks just working on this. And that's really hard. And so for me, like hiring Antonia, my managing director, has been really great because I realize that I know what my strengths are. And like, I mean, as a result of her coming on and managing the day-to-day, and she brought in like a diverse group of people. She hired people that, like didn't necessarily fit the what we had hired in the past, but like completely transformed the organization in terms of just like this family-like culture and vibe, right? And that came from her. And so that's why I said like delegate the things that you're not good at. Like I'm really good at empathetic, but I'm good at being an empathetic for a certain like task and outcome.
Of course.
Right? So
you can't be giving that and like always in tune all the time. It's
not at all. No. And I mean, and you have to also be aware of, your other responsibilities. So I have family and so like family is important. So I need to make sure that I preserve my energy for that. So I mean, it's just it's an interesting topic, and I love Chance's question. So
yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like one of the things around empathy and leadership that we don't really talk about is, I mean, to your point, it's a finite resource, right? Like giving all the time it's like a hard thing to do. And to what we were talking about earlier, you can't be empathetic if you don't have the time to.
Yeah.
Right? So like this constant restlessness of like, we need to be doing more, working harder, moving faster. Oh my God, speed, crazy. Everything's just crazy. Let's be busy and everything. Like when that happens in an organization, like we don't have any more space to be empathetic. Like where do you have the time?
Yeah.
You don't.
You don't. Yeah.
You don't. And that's why, and I've been guilty of this, first year running your company, it was like, I felt this immense pressure that I'd put on myself. Like, oh my God, I just have to be maxed out to 100. Every single moment of every single day, just like
it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable at all. And what it does is it doesn't create the space for new ideas. It doesn't create the space for me to be truly empathetic with the team. It doesn't actually help me be the best leader possible.
Yeah.
You're on autopilot.
Yeah.
So I love that you brought that up. I love that you make empathy, something that is top of mind. And I know for everyone watching, it's something that we'll be thinking about. I guess for the folks watching, last thing I'll sort of ask you is, what advice do you have for leaders who find themselves in this trap of, Steve, I don't know, I do feel like I need to send these emails at 6 in the morning. I do feel like I need to keep pushing and going. I don't know if I have time to be empathetic. What would you say to leaders who struggle to find that balance?
That's That's a hard question.
Yeah.
Because I think you really have to. I mean, I think it wasn't until so like the idea of going hard all the time, just going,
Yeah.
and not being in tune with your environment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've run my organization through like the crash of 2008. It was like we almost like didn't make it
Totally.
because I wasn't in tune with what was happening in the world. I didn't stick my head up just to see like, hey, what's going on,
Yeah.
right? And so between that and a team, right? Like I know that like I have certain team members, or I have team members, like I want to keep them, right? Like I want them to be happy.
Yep.
I tell them all the time, like wherever you want to be, I want your springboard to be here at Stoked. Like it's inconceivable to think that you keep people forever. But if people are spending 8 to 10 hours a day with you, you have a moral obligation to make sure that they're happy and healthy with
Mm-hmm.
you. And then as a leader, just like being empathetic to other people, but then just the notion of self-care
Mm-hmm.
is the utmost importance, because if you don't, you will die.
Yeah.
You will die too early. You'll get like stomach issues. You'll get like gray hair too soon.
Totally.
I've seen people like bite their nails too much. I've seen people super depressed because they didn't take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't check in with themselves. They didn't check in with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I think, you know, that I guess the answer to it is like, yeah, what's more important, like living a happy, healthy life, or like because there's this notion right now too. It's like if I work super hard right now for 5 years,
Yeah.
I build my company and I'll sell it,
Yeah.
and I make a ton of money.
Yeah.
Like you are not Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
Like you are not, you know,
Yeah.
like
Sorry to break the news.
not everybody's like that, and it's, you know, there's a whole bunch of other sort of things playing into it: timing, cultural inheritances, schools, like socioeconomic, like everything
Yes.
plays into like you like building up a company and selling it, right? Like just, but while you are having this company, like you should work hard, stay focused, have a good team, make sure everybody's happy,
Yeah.
do great work and provide amazing results that serve a greater population. Yeah, then I mean, you know, tons of people like this, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes, it's possible.
it's possible.
It's possible.
It's not the end of the world if you know, like don't send that email at 6 a.m.
Exactly.
The person is not actually expecting your email. That's
No.
the thing.
Yeah.
The person doesn't care about your email. Nobody cares about your email.
Steve, it's so dang refreshing to hear that. Thank you so much for joining us, and for everyone watching, please be sure to check out Steve's amazing nonprofit, stoked.org.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm excited. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions.